Welcome back to our coverage of the Kerbal 4.3 launch to the Kerbal Space Station. We're resuming our countdown in T-minus 5 seconds from 10 minutes. And countdown has been resumed. T-minus 9 minutes 55 seconds until launch. During this launch attempt, we'll be sending Munball Kerman and Jeffrey Kerman to the Kerbal Space Station. But right now we're sitting on the launch pad getting ready for launch. So, space station has already flown overhead. T-minus 8 minutes 50 seconds. It's a very clear day here on Kerbin at the Kerbal Space Station. As the crew is getting ready to launch two veteran Kerbal Knots to space. T-minus 8 minutes and 50 seconds and counting. 15 seconds and counting. Now let's get a view from our space station. The space station has been orbiting Kerbin for the past 12 years. Currently has 7 astronauts on board. And after Kerbal 4.3 docks with the space station, Melly Kerman and Saduki Kerman will be headed back to the surface. T-minus 7 minutes and counting. So we're going back now to the launch pad where Kerbal 4 is on the launch pad. T-minus 6 minutes and counting. Getting ready for launch. It's a long way up to the space station, where it's orbiting 86 kilometers above the surface. Let's look at Jeff Burry's visor visor cam. Can't see much except for the inside of the capsule and the fairing surrounding the capsule, protecting it from damage when launching. We're under 5 minutes till launch. T-minus 4 minutes till launch, and the crew is doing your last checks before launch. And as the time ticks closer and closer to launch, yeah, I have no idea what I'm saying. T-minus 3 minutes till launch. And unfortunately, there's no launch escape system on this rocket, so if something does happen, what they're going to do is separate from the main two stages and light the final stage engine and try and use that to get away from the rocket. And if it's the final stage that's having problems, they're just gonna disconnect and try and get away from the rocket. So that's one downside to these Kerbal 4 rockets, although the moon landing version, or the exploration versions, do have launch escape systems, and we're under 2 minutes till launch. And the wind appears to be picking up a little bit at the Kerbal Space Center. T-minus 90 seconds and counting. T-minus 50 seconds and counting. All systems are nominal. T-minus 40 seconds. 30 seconds, or T-minus 30 seconds and counting. All systems nominal. We are go for launch. T-minus 20. All guidance is internal. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we have liftoff of Kerbal 4 on its next mission to the space station. And Munmull and Jeffbury are headed to the station once again. And we're approaching the point where the spacecraft reaches supersonic speeds and at the same time reaches max Q, the maximum dynamic pressure on the spacecraft in low orbit. As the engines are throttled down as they accelerate through max Q. Kerbal 4's go for throttle up. And boosters in stage 1 are about to separate. Standing up. And booster and stage 1 separation is confirmed. Stage 2 is operating. All systems are nominal. Kerbal 4 is 21 kilometers in altitude, 10 kilometers downrange from the Kerbal Space Center. All systems are nominal. Trajectory is also nominal. Kerbal 4 is now 40 kilometers in altitude, 20 kilometers downrange. And Kerbal 4 is now throttling down as it coasts up to its highest point, where it will circularize the orbit and get on its way to the space station after a few course corrections. Kerbal 4 is now 65 kilometers in altitude, 70 kilometers downrange. fairings have been deployed. Kerbal 4 is 70 kilometers downrange. 70 kilometers in altitude, 100 kilometers downrange. Kerbal 4, go at throttle up. Five minutes 40 seconds into launch. The two astronauts experiencing gravitational forces 2 times greater than that of the planet. Kerbal 4, 77 kilometers in altitude, 200 kilometers downrange. And Kerbal 4 is in orbit. And 6 minutes 45 seconds after launch, the astronauts are once again in space, headed for the space station. Alright, so we're gonna go off the air and until Kerbal 4 is about to dock to the space station. But we'll leave the live feed up until then. Hello viewers, and welcome back to the docking to this. Welcome back to Kerbal 4 docking to the Kerbal Space Station. So right now we have the Kerbal 4 spaceship lining up, trying to get a good just trying to get in a good point to dock to the space station. And it appears they're now going into dock. And they have successfully docked to the Kerbal Space Station. So now we'll be sending Melly Kerman and Suzuki Kerman into the empty Kerbal 4 to send them home. So in the morning, they will, or the other Kerbal 4 with Melly and Suzuki will undock from the Kerbal Space Station, and they will be on their way home. Alright, and now Kerbal 4 will be undocking from the space station. And Kerbal 4 is undocked from the station. And now is going to back away from the station before performing a retrograde burn to send her back down to the surface. And now they're turning retrograde, getting ready for the burn. And they'll be performing the burn in T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds and counting. And T-minus 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and performing the retrograde burn. Now it's a little bit delayed. And there goes the Kerbal Space Station, off into the distance, already a kilometer away. And they are stopping the burn. They've burned plenty, and now they descend back into the atmosphere. Although they still have 15 kilometers to go before they hit the atmosphere. And the space station's already almost that far away. Just shows how fast that these spacecraft travel. Kerbal Space Station already 20 kilometers away from Kerbal 4. And Kerbal 4 is 82 kilometers above the surface as it descends into the atmosphere. $80 to go. 10 until atmosphere impact, and about 28 until they start the re-entry phase and lose contact with Kerbal control. And 2 kilometers above the atmosphere. Getting ready to re-enter. Performing a quick maneuver to get rid of the fuel tank that is unneeded, as they are now re-entering. And only 3 minutes after separation, they are under 70 kilometers in the atmosphere. Let's look at Suzuki's visor cam. They are slowly making their way down. Not really slowly, it's quite fast. 60 kilometers to go. And they should start the re-entry burn, or they should start re-entry phase at 50 kilometers. Heat shield is heating up. And loss of contact will begin momentarily. The Kerbal Space Station, or the Kerbal Space Center, has come into view. About 60 kilometers away. Actually, about 80 kilometers away. And loss of contact has occurred. Should regain contact in about a minute. We would look at the visor cam from Suzuki, but since loss of contact, we are not able to do so. Kerbal 4 is 32 kilometers above the surface, 47 kilometers away from the Kerbal Space Center, as they're starting to experience 2Gs now, as they decelerate as they fall through the atmosphere. They are now experiencing 4Gs as they continue to decelerate. That rate of, or that G-force, still increasing, about to hit 5Gs. 40 seconds into blackout. And signal has been regained. Kerbal 4 is still experiencing 4Gs or 5Gs, but it's holding steady at that. As we look at the visor cam from Stooky, there's the moon about to go below the horizon, and the spacecraft continuing to decelerate. About 53 kilometers away from the Kerbal Space Center offshore. And there's anyway. As they fall 10 kilometers now above the surface. Parachutes don't deploy until 2 kilometers above the surface. So it's quite a long fall to go. And they're gonna jettison the heat shield. Which did nothing. 2 kilometers until parachutes opened. And 4 kilometers above the ocean. 55 kilometers away from the Kerbal Space Center. And the Kerbal Space Station already pretty much halfway around the world. Not really. But. And the chute's a little slow. Chutes are being slow, and there we go. Chutes have opened. It's a matter of if they fully deploy. And the chutes fully deploy, and the heat shield has fallen away from the capsule towards the ocean. And the heat shield has hit the surface. Kerbal 4 is 90 meters above the surface. And Kerbal 4 has splashed down, successful return mission, and successful mission up to the station. And only 9.5 minutes after undocking from the space station, Kerbal 4 splashed down about 55 kilometers away from the Kerbal Space Station. Thank you for tuning in to this broadcast, and we'll see you on the next flight.